Sam, get rid of the stop sharing button on the bottom of your screen.
Sorry. In a global time of crisis, socially based meetings are considered especially difficult. In separate states, the dedicated dimwits who brave the internet in search of laughs are creating a series of slideshows known as Quarantine Presents. These are their presentations.
I can't hear it.
Everything a camera? Morty,
oh, crap. Hold on. Bubble! Many eons ago, we were given voice. And people, such as the Greeks, for instance, used said voice to tell stories, some of sorrow and pain, some of triumph, and some of laughter. These stories of laughter were known as comedies.
Comedy.
They have now expanded their reach through the branches of time to touch a little bit of everything, from the jokes that your dad makes, to the tweet you chuckle at 3 a.m. while lying in your bed, to blockbuster hits like Paul Blart Mall Cop and James Cameron's Avatar. Google defines comedy as the humorous or amusing aspects of something, as seen here. So, as that is, it sounds like comedy could be subjective, right? Each person could find certain aspects of a thing humorous, while someone else would find completely different aspects hysterical. But this perfectly logical conclusion is unfortunately incorrect. Comedy is a concrete attribute of certain things with these 3 criteria. Does it make the laugh? Is it uncommon? And will it be quoted or duplicated? These are the criteria with which I will be analyzing the pure, unfathomable comedy of Pickle Rick.
Morty! Rick? Hey, Morty! Rick? Are you far away, or are you inside something? Is this a camera? Is everything a camera? Morty! The garage, Morty! Come to the garage! Morty! Rick? Where are you? On my workbench, Morty. Are you invisible and you're gonna, fart on me? Flip the pickle over. What? I'm gonna touch it and you're gonna tell me it's an alien dick or something. Come on, flip the pickle, Morty. You're not gonna regret it. The payoff is huge. I turned myself into a pickle, Morty! Boom! Big reveal, I'm a pickle. What do you think about that? I turned myself into a pickle! What are you just staring at me for, bro? I turned myself into a pickle, Morty. And? What more do you want tacked onto this? I turned myself into a pickle and 9/11 was an inside job. Was it? Who cares, Morty? Global acts of terrorism happen every day. Here's something that's never happened before. I'm a pickle. I'm Pickle Rick.
Does it make the laugh? Now, you may not believe this, but some people swear they do not understand why this scene is so funny. Some people don't even realize that the 2 title characters of this show are voiced by a lemon man. Justin Roiland is a true professional in the voiceover booth, and even in the middle of recording this scene, he had difficulty holding in the laughs.
It's okay, Beth. I'm not offended. I understand Morty's suspicion.
So given that, this most definitely does make the laugh. Is it uncommon? Now, I would like you to do your very best to name a famous pickle. That's right. You can't. I'm sorry. This is so fun. I was all right this morning, I'll tell you what.
I'm not all right ever.
No. Okay. Pickles are not usually characters, as they are most commonly not sentient, a situation that is totally flipped on its head here. Not only that, but the dialogue between Pickle Rick and Morty is full of unnatural flow, without feeling unbearable, like when a cartoon character unintentionally tells their crush how they feel for the first time. It's uncommon indeed.
It's not even a Pickle and Veggie Tales.
Will it be quoted/duplicated? This particular point is where this scene really shines.
Flip the pickle, Morty. You're not going to regret it. The payoff is huge.
Pickle Rick here says the payoff will be huge, which is funny because pickles are not commonly known for being huge, something that has been seen in other media. A callback to Jason's last remark.
Huge.
The contrast between pickle and huge is hilarious. Now, let's take a look at some other pickle characters to see how this could be duplicated. Kevin C. Cucumber is technically a sea cucumber, but if we're honest, he's just a pickle with a hat. He is a jelly spotter and a celebrity in SpongeBob's eyes, and just like Pickle Rick, he ends up going through the ringer because he's a selfish jerk. I didn't know it was a hat, and it wasn't.
Got him.
Anyway, I think that face would sound like Funny Man Stu Pickles.
Now wait a minute.
Stu
Tommy Pickles, Angelica Pickles, Stu Pickles.
Stu Pickles is not just one, but multiple pickles. Like Rick, he is a father, an inventor. He dresses kind of funny and has bluish, spiky hair. Wait, hold on. Wait.
I love a good barbecue.
Wait.
Okay.
I love barbecuing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. Oh, okay. Are Stu Pickles and Pickle Rick the same person?
Oh no.
I mean, Rick is a universe. He is a universe-hopping madman, and there's an infinite number of him. He could absolutely be this guy too. And oh my gosh, guys, I figured it out. And the best part, of course, is that being the same person is that would be super funny. Pure, unfathomable comedy. The end.
I might actually kill myself.
I kid you not, Scoob. He turns himself into a pickle. Calls himself Pickle Rick. Funniest stuff I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
Colonel. He turns himself into a pickle, Colonel. Funniest shit I've ever seen.
Sit down.
I like that pink.
Lecture's about to begin on why Miitomo is a better video game than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yes, chef.
Yeah, so we're gonna just get right to it. So Miitomo.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
he's using
you
laser
wrote a
pointer.
paragraph on a present on a heckin'.
Is it an underrated classic, gentlemen, or an underrated masterpiece? We need to find out today. Miitomo was a game loved by many. It's not appreciated by few, though. Tragically, it's no longer available to be played on the App Store or the Google Play Store, but the memory of its magnificence will go down in history along with the greats. Sure you all remember them: Duke Nukem 64, Super Punch-Out, and Clue Finder's Mystery of Mathra. In this presentation, we will recount the glory of Miitomo by comparing it to a game that many have overhyped, The Legend of Zelda, aforementioned Breath of the Wild.
Ugh.
Let's begin. So let's start with some features, gentlemen. And as you can see, there's a plethora of amazing features which are present in Miitomo, yet absent from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You will see that they share the clothes and apartment decoration, but Breath of the Wild is lacking in all of these features. Most egregiously, I think, marriage and baby. Not many video games today have the guts to include marriage and baby. So just stick that in your restaurant and serve it. But just looking at this simple chart, we could call it a day. We could pack it up and go home, but I think we can dig a little deeper. I think we can start with the timelines.
Oh, Jesus wept.
Oh, boy.
Now, the Miitomo timeline. Let's take a look. Simple. It's impactful. It's concise. You got no Miitomo here at the beginning of time. Then we got the Golden Age. We got the Miitomo era. Miitomo is over now, and this is the future. So, let's take it over to something that's a little bit less clean and simple, which is the Zelda timeline. It's complicated, it's muddled, it's fucked up,
Oh,
people.
boy.
You can
Oh
see
my gosh. The basketball timeline.
He's shooting
we've got no less than 3.5 and 3/4. If this were a pitchfork, it would have so many branches coming off the forks, it would be unusable. It's an unserviceable timeline, gentlemen, and I think that speaks for itself. But we can also look at the systems on which these games are available. Now look at me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes and tell me that the Wii U didn't suck.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Breath of the Wild was first released on the Wii U. The Wii U's bad. But even if you played it on the Nintendo Switch, you purchased a whole game console. You purchased a console to play a video game. Now, a cellular phone, that is something we all own, people. That is something everybody has. We already got it in our pocket. Why not add another function? Bingo bongo video game. Let's look at some character designs over here.
Oh.
Now you can see that Miitomo uses the classic Mii art style, which is cohesive. All the characters using the same template look like they belong in the same world. Meanwhile, Legend of Smelda over here, they can't decide. They can't decide if they want fish people or bird people or tree people or people. They can't make up their fucking minds over here. Here's some other things that are bad. Breath of the Wild has all of these awful, terrible, no good features. Some might call them. I call them detractors. You got breakable items. You got a stamina wheel, which nobody wants. Title has way too many words.
How many words are there in the title?
British Zelda. No, thank you. There is no Ganondorf in the video game. There is a Tingle costume, though, which I think that is actually of detriment to the game. The puzzles are too easy and also too hard. The Breath of the Wild in the title, guess what? That never appears. There is no Breath of the Wild in the game. It's not in there. It's false advertising. It's false marketing. Horse can die. The game feels also a departure from other entries in the series, which can be a big turnoff for longtime fans who like the series partially for its adherence to formula. But most of all, I think we can all agree that the presence of great fairies inevitably earns it a spot in the dumpster.
Oh-ho!
So, in conclusion, Miitomo is truly one of the greats. And while its majesty may never reach the same heights as Sid Meier's Civilization 2, at least we can agree that it is better than the steaming hunk of garbo that is Lozbotwa, although that may just be a matter of taste and whether or not you have any.
Ooh, same guy.
Same guy.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm so glad I came to this TED Talks.
Thank you.
We're done here.
Oh, I'm so happy right now. I am very pleased with this one.
Gentlemen, I present for the judgment of the Midnight Society why Riverdale is freaking epic. First question we have to answer for ourselves is, what are the Archie comics, all right? First thing, the Archie comics are a long-running series of comics typically sold in grocery store checkout lanes between the Chapstick and the Zippos. The Archie comics were started in 1941. They're obviously very old and should really look into updating their material. I mean, look at this comic cover on the left. Is there anything even remotely funny about that to you? Can you spot a single joke? I can't. While a lot of people say the comics are fantastic, I make it a point of not trusting anything said by people who still read comic books.
Woo!
That's why Corey and I aren't friends. Now, it's time we have a real question. What is Riverdale? What is Riverdale? Riverdale is an American teen drama series based off the characters of the Archie comics and is also the greatest show ever created by man, all right? You understand me? Riverdale was released in 2017 to glowing reviews. Many people, myself included, believe that's why Riverdale is the better version of the Archie comic. It is peak. It is top tier. Nothing comes close. Riverdale appears on the CW network, which is the only network on television. The CW is well known for creating other great young adult soap operas such as One Tree Hill and Pretty Little Liars, as well as the good version of DC Comics characters. Now, why don't we talk about some similarities, please? Because it is a TV show based on comics, so there's probably at least a couple similarities. The names of the characters are kept the same. Some of their looks are kept the same. Some of their relationships are kept the same. The show attempts to keep the same quirky, fun, anything can happen sort of vibe that appeared in the comics. The show can pivot instantly between horror, comedy, musical, and crime drama, all within the space of a single episode. This is, of course, freaking sweet and absolutely does not create any tonal problems over the course of the show. Do you understand me? Now let's look at some similarities part 2. Are you ready? There are no more similarities. This was it. The slide is pointless. Next point. Now let's talk about some character differences. Because they're very different, they had to be updated. Can't be putting characters from the fucking 40s in our TV show. Can't have any characters without characters. And boy howdy, these peeps and creeps get a big update. Gone are those cookie cutter characters of the post-war era. The show updates the characters to a much more gritty, modern, despite the show having a 50s aesthetic, and realistic level never before seen. They're nothing like the 50s veneer of perfection that everyone wants to pull over real life. The Archie comics were good, and no one's going to deny that except big IQ people like me and Sam. Riverdale, on the other hand, is just on a whole different level that you can't even understand. Gone are the cartoons of yesteryear. Here to stay are these sexy new additions to the Archie lore. Let's go over some specifics about the character changes, shall we? Let's start with our main titular character, Mr. Riverdale himself. See the R on his jacket? That stands for Riverdale. It actually says Riverdale, but the word goes under his armpit and around to the back. An intense, conflicted teen, a high school sophomore who got into shape over summer and now has to handle newfound attention from his female classmates. He struggles balancing his social life with his passion for writing and performing music against the wishes of his father and his football coach. By the way, all the stuff in red, that comes directly from the fandom wiki character descriptions. In Riverdale, we see a whole new Archie, betraying his friends, and not to mention, breaking hearts like they were eggshells over here, this handsome hunk of man. Archie has taken up lying to his dad, to his friends, and even to himself in some extent. In the end, everything selfish about the original has been filtered out, magnified, and put back in to a dark anti-hero who isn't even really interested in saving anyone. And that's pretty sweet, if you ask me. Now let's move on to some love interest, shall we? To Betty. Sweet, studious, eager to please, and wholesome as apple pie with a huge crush on her longtime best friend Archie. Tired of being the perfect daughter, student, sister, etc., she turns to her new friend Veronica for life advice, much to the consternation of her emotionally brittle mother, just like the comics. Betty, sweet girl, sweet child, sweet Lily Reinhardt. She's not the girl you thought you know. Betty in Riverdale is anything but sweet and straightforward. Don't read the top part. If you aren't ready to see her hide a body in the woods or strip in front of a room full of bikers, then you don't need to watch the show. It's your loss. Betty in Riverdale is a super badass who straddles the line between cool and psychotic murderer. We'll get to that in a minute. Veronica, a sweet, intelligent, confident, silver-tongued high school sophomore. Veronica moves to Riverdale from New York, eager to reinvent herself after a scandal involving her father, whose name is Hiram, Hiram. She grew up a spoiled and self-centered socialite in the big city, but things have changed. Do you understand me, Corey? They've changed.
How have they
Father,
changed?
Hiram, is in jail, leaving
What?
Veronica and her mother to fend for themselves with only an apartment to their name in this tiny, out-of-the-way town. But they aren't living in wealth and luxury anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Riverdale is one of the first shows to realize that rich people aren't actually people. And they really toned down the snooty Veronica we saw in the comics. You best leave the entitlement to Cheryl Blossom. And now, my sweet prince, the most handsome boy of all, Zach or Cody, whichever one he played. Jughead Jones, a heartthrob with a philosophical bent and former best friend of Archie Andrews. He's still smarting from the rift that took place between the two. The one-dimensional burger-loving doofus grew up. He's not the comic relief anymore. In fact, he couldn't be further from it if he tried. He's got a makeover, a new hat, a motorcycle, and a typewriter. Very cool. He's a weirdo who doesn't fit in. They took a character who is famous for not dating, and they turned him into a sexy, mysterious gangster punk from the wrong side of the tracks. Do you understand me? Which brings me to my most important point. Ladies and gentlemen, Jughead fucks. Do you understand me? He fucks a lot. Everyone in Riverdale is horny, but Jughead is the horniest of all. Just like how Beastars is just Zootopia but horny, so too is Riverdale, just the Archie comics, but horny. Do you understand me? Jughead fucks. Now, I think we might as well address the tonal differences between the comics and the show, if we may. Dark and gritty equals good. We all like things that are dark and gritty. Riverdale dares to take something comical and boring and transforms it into something dark and twisted. Affairs, murder, conspiracy, Dungeons and Dragons. These are just a few of the terrifying new things you can find in Riverdale, interspersed between all the parties and musical numbers that I mentioned earlier. I mean, the Archie comics never tackled anything dark, mysterious, or adult before. Did you ever see them tackle it? I didn't think so. Now, the writing of this show. I don't even know how to explain it, bro, okay? The writers are geniuses. The plot in every episode is always so incredibly riveting and complex and intense. There's plenty of blood and drama in the new Riverdale, but there's always a twist, and then the twist gets a twist. If this series were a straight-up crime solver, where the kids just turn in the killer to the sheriff at the end of each episode, like another terrible old cartoon I think we all know and hate, it would be boring and canceled so quickly. Pictured here, this sexy hunk of man is Roberto, just one of the 25 different writers who have worked so hard to create this masterpiece. Do you understand me, Corey? It's a masterpiece. The writing part due. I thought I'd add some quotes and links to quench your thirst for good writing. All right, this show is so full of good writing, unlike Breath of the Wild, which has only bad writing. These are all real quotes, by the way. I did not add anything. These are real, if I may. The Serpent Queen is a warrior queen. In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. 10 points to whatever Harry Potter house you identify with, if you can guess who says that sexy line. Does it ever occur to you how different we are? Like on a cellular DNA kind of level? Here, I invented red. I am red. No one invited fascist Barbie to the party. Jason Blossom is the Gargoyle King. You're staring at our pussycat ears, which is rude. Drop the butter knife, bitch. They discover that you have the MAOA, which are commonly called the serial killer genes.
What?
You mean like when you dragged me by my ankles to get a lobotomy? And now, if I may, open some Twitter threads to show you some scenes that they just have to be seen.
Go right ahead.
To be believed.
Yeah.
If it lets me play the sound, which it's not, let me.
Not walking. I want to live. Like guys, straight up, most of us are going to be here for a long time. Am I right? I don't want to do that time living like an animal. Shivving each other in the freaking yard, that might be what the guards and the warden and the rest of the world out there expects of us. But screw them. Let's show them there's another way. What is that? If we weren't here, we'd be in high school joining clubs, trying out for sports.
Not me. I dropped out in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my nana.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football. But you will. At least for one afternoon when all of us play a game, one game, to remind them that we are not animals, that we're men.
Did you hear that? The epic highs and lows of high school football.
Why are they in a prison yard?
And now the second one, if I may.
Sure. Just keep going.
Or I'll cut out your sister's eyes.
You can take all of us.
Now tell me, Corey.
Who
You're a
invited the
comic book-
Tuttle Snakes?
You're a comic books dweebus, right?
Yeah,
Tell me, did that shit ever happen in the Archie comics?
it
Huh?
certainly did not.
Well, then, I think I've rested my case. But you know what? Just to really rub it in, I'm gonna keep going. We have to talk about the awards, the honors that this show has received. Riverdale, being the single greatest piece of art ever created, was obviously met with critical acclaim. Rotten Tomatoes, the single most trusted review site, wrote that Riverdale offers an amusingly self-aware reimagining of its classic source material that proves eerie, odd, daring, and above all addictive. And if you will look at the scores, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Quit laughing. Not only that, but Riverdale was also nominated for 8 Teen Choice Awards and won 7, including Best TV Ship, Best TV Scene Stealer, and Best Hissy Fit. As we all know, if there's anyone who knows good art, it's teenagers. Now we move on to another point, that comics are for nerds and losers, all right?
Hey.
Let's face it. Comics are stupid. Nobody reads comics anymore. Hell, nobody reads anymore. That's why so many books or comics are being adapted to film. Lily Wordsmith, writing for TVOvermind.com, a trusted news site we all know and trust, wrote, taking this series off the page and remaking it for the small screen allows new elements to come into play. We're not just talking about the darker and more broody/real worldview. Allowing movement and adding a soundtrack clearly makes live adaptations of beloved works better than they could ever be on paper. And let's be real, people who still read, enjoy, and make arguments for comic books are also probably really bad at fighting games, so if you don't like it, 1v1 me, mate. Something to say, Corey? Something you'd like to share with the class? I didn't think so. Now we move on to my final point, realism. At the end of the day, Riverdale is quite simply the better version of the comics. Gone are the old days of cookie-cutter characters, of stuffy old comics that never changed, never updated, never added in a more adult storyline to challenge its reader. Riverdale, at the end of the day, is darker, more gritty, more sexy, more modern, more realistic. And the Archie comics just can't keep up. Riverdale is a masterpiece that tells a compelling thrill ride of a story with real characters, real flaws, imperfect decisions. It's a show that most people can relate to. A show where people can see themselves in the character. When you saw Jughead kick down that door and shatter it into 10,000 pieces, while he and his gang of greasers pulled out their switchblades, did you not see yourself in that? As former Jets yourselves, did you not see yourselves in those characters? And sure, there are critics who say it's not true. They'll say that the show is just campy. They'll say it's not realistic. They'll point to things like the clumsy attempt to portray women, or its clumsy attempts to portray homosexuality, or its clumsy attempts to portray people of color, or its clumsy attempts to portray mental illness, or the fact that kids will party when there's a serial killer on the loose, or the fact that this small town has like 6 different gangs of greasers, or the fact that the town has a mysterious drug dealer called the Sugar Man, or the fact that the Sugar Man mantle is passed down when the previous Sugar Man is captured or killed, or the fact that the Sugar Man sells a drug called the Jingle Jangle, or the fact that the cheerleading squad has separate uniforms that they wear to funerals complete with black pom-poms, or the concept of Dark Betty, or that time Betty fucked a student, or tortured him, then tried to drown him, or the fact that they reduced Kevin Keller to a cruising gay man, or the fact that they reduced Chuck Clayton into a borderline date rapist, or the fact that the season 2 antagonist is a serial killer attempting to purge Riverdale of its sins, or the fact that the season 3 antagonist is a cult icon called the Gargoyle King, or the fact that people sacrifice themselves to the Gargoyle King, or the fact that Jughead almost gets murdered by a bunch of 12-year-olds with spears, or the fact that Jughead's dad runs one of the gangs and later becomes the sheriff of the town, or the implied incestuous relationship between the Blossom twins, or the fact that that's not the only incestuous relationship in the show, or the fact that Archie, a 15-year-old, has an affair with his adult teacher, or the fact that the show starts with said teacher being arrested for statutory, or the fact that that's portrayed as a bad thing, or the fact that Betty buries a body in the woods, or the fact that Cheryl Blossom is a major character, or the fact that Archie has to have an underground boxing match with Hiram Lodge for some reason, or the fact that Archie takes a blood oath to join Hiram Lodge's mob, or the fact that Hiram Lodge is supposed to be in jail but just comes and goes when he pleases because he owns the jail, or because Hiram Lodge tries to buy the town, or any other number of reasons. But let me tell you, those are all things that I, as a small town high school student, have had to deal with myself in the past. And I know darn well that you've had to deal with it too. In conclusion, Riverdale is, to put it mildly, the single greatest show on the planet. And that's why Riverdale is freaking epic. I rest my case, Your Honor, Judge. Thank you for coming to my TED Talks. That's it. The fucking show's over.
Well, I say you done a fine bang-up job here today.